You do know for that pie that I am going to be bringing you work.
You're going to give us pie?
No, I gave Dickie pie. Rhubarb.
And of course he didn't share.
Rhubarb,
He's
homemade.
not going to share it.
Well,
You
you shouldn't have opened it up. You could smell it.
When you get to the pumpkin pie, let me know.
I don't do pumpkin pie. I'm a rhubarb girl.
I think I got some more rhubarb in my backyard.
I've got piles of it. I have plants everywhere.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to start the meeting. This is the Grand Traverse County Resource Management and Administration Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 11th. It is 7 p.m. If you have a cell phone, please put it on silent or vibrate. That would be helpful to us. We will begin the meeting with our opening ceremonies of the pledge, and if Commissioner Rennie would lead us in that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody ready?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll have the roll call attendance, please.
Commissioner Lathrop,
Here.
Lemkel,
Here.
Maxbauer,
Here.
Rennie,
Here.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Inman.
Here. We're all set on the attendance for quorum. Now we need the item number 3, which is the approval of the August 14, 2013 minutes of the RMA Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the August 14th minutes as mailed.
As amended.
As amended? Yeah, well, the change.
Yes.
Right.
Everybody have the change minutes on that meeting? All right, because that meeting is, those minutes are amended and they're on your desk, or they were sent to you by email.
We got them.
Everybody got them? Okay. So it's been moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Lemko, is that correct? To approve the amended minutes that were presented to us. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right, that concludes that. We're now moving on to item 4, which is public comment. If the clerk could read the rules of public comment.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once in the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, you've heard the general guidelines regarding public comment. As you know, it's our practice to, if there's an agenda item that you want to speak at a particular time, you please let me know and we'll let you address that at that time. But does any member of the public wish to speak under public comment at this time? Seeing no indication from the public, we will close public comment and we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Before we do that, Dave, is there any additions that we need to deal with? All right, we need an approval of the agenda.
There's 2 items that we have to discuss. There's a closed session on September 23rd, so I need to have a consensus on that. So if we can add that to the agenda, please.
Okay, under new business, closed session, for what date?
September
23rd.
23rd.
September 23rd? Okay.
Yeah.
And another item?
And then the other item is the 25th with the pavilions, to make sure that everybody's got that on their schedule.
Okay.
We need to have people say yes or no, they're going to be able to be there.
Okay. 25th for the pavilions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of September.
Yep.
Okay, we'll add those 2 under new business for a clarification
Thank you.
discussion. Okay, now we need an approval to amend the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Lemko,
Support.
seconded by Commissioner Rennie to approve the agenda as amended. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We have an agenda. Okay, item number 6 is the consent calendar. For those of you that are in the audience and at home, that is items that the administration feels we can just do in one vote. and members of the public can, or commissioners can pull that off as well. So could you please read the consent calendar?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Community Corrections Monthly Report for July. 2, Commission on Aging Monthly Report and non-action items. 3, Jail Snapshot Charts for August 2013. 4, Conservation District Monthly Report. 5, Road Commission Report for September 11th. B, approval. 1, Community Corrections Contract Renewals for fiscal year 2013 and 14. 2, Health Department Renewal of Lease Agreement for Kingsley Adolescent Health Clinic. 3, Health Department CPBC Agreement Amendment Number 6. 4, Human Resources Revised Compensation for Travel Time Policy. 5, District Court Contract with Catholic Human Services for Substance Abuse Assessments.
Okay, the consent calendar has been read. Are there any items from the consent calendar that the public would wish to pull off for further discussion? Seeing none, moving it to the Board of Commissioners. Are there items that commissioners would like to have pulled from the consent calendar? Commissioner Rennie.
Receive and file number 5.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, we need a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item A5.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of A5.
Support.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Maxbauer to approve the consent calendar with the exception of A5. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lemkool,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Consent calendar has been approved. We now move on to items that are pulled off the consent calendar, and that is item A5. Commissioner Rennie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like the Road Commission to talk a little bit about South Airport. Tell us what's happening with these traffic lights and this improvement that's going to go on west of Cass Road.
Okay, you're welcome to, if you have remarks. If you don't, then you can just indicate. We'll get back to you later.
Say again, Charlie.
I read your presentation for the board, and you indicated you could answer some questions on project updates. I would like to know a little bit about number D, which talks about South Airport, and also about approving some traffic signals, modifications on South Airport to smooth traffic. I've had some constituents out that way that have expressed some concern about our traffic light timing on South Airport.
C and D.
Are you in a position to respond to that, or do you want to get back to us? Get yourself introduced if you could.
Good evening, Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission. Okay.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I read your report.
Okay. Which one do you want to do first?
Well, I did have a couple calls on traffic signals, and I see here that you have an MDOT contract approved to upgrade traffic signals on South Airport at Garfield, which I know is a problem. I'm there every day. And also Barlow, which both ways can be a problem, actually. Then also, I wasn't aware of this other South Airport project that has to do with Veterans Drive to Cass Road. And I'd like an update on what that's all about.
Yeah, first off, the traffic signals, we're actually doing a traffic signal study, and we're just looking for ways to improve what we have there. I mean, you know, we all know that we're about 20 or 25% over on capacity. Anybody that stops at any of those lights knows there's, it's almost impossible to get through. So we're just investigating to see what we can do with traffic signals to improve the situation there, as far as timing and things like that.
Okay.
Commissioner Lemko? and then
Just,
Max?
if we put 20% of those people on buses and put them on bicycles, we could relieve that traffic congestion.
Even when they're on bicycles, they're supposed to stop for the traffic lights, though.
All right, Commissioner Maxbar?
No, I just was flexing my fingers. I had no comment. Mark your calendar.
Do you have anything else on the veterans and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
South Airport, we're doing some repair and maintenance work there at that intersection. We're just doing some repairs there that need to be done.
Okay.
I mean, if you've been through the area,
Yeah.
it's in rough shape, yeah.
How did that machine work that you had, special machine come in?
It actually worked really well. If you, anybody that gets a chance to go check it out, it's right in front of the gas station there on South Airport, and that's Division, right? And
31.
and if you look at it, I mean, you can see where the road was repaired, but I mean, they heated that area up with infrared. It was a machine that can do actually a full lane, and that was actually a free. We talked him into a demonstration, so that was free to the road commission, and we wanted to evaluate how well that would work. And basically, they reheat the pavement, excuse me, and they add material, and then they actually go over it with a roller, and it's not as good as replacing the road, but it did a really nice job there. So you'll actually see, I believe, I think it's next week, we'll actually be doing on South Airport Road as you come down the hill towards Parkway, the curve, and there's some manholes that are just it's falling apart around the manholes, and so those have been repaired many times. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use that infrared process and actually, we'll call it heal the pavement around those manholes. So you'll see a difference there, and so we're hopeful that that's another technology that we can utilize.
Okay. Any other questions for the road commission? I just have one quick one that came up at Whitewater Township last night. There was a question whether you had any discussions with those other county, like Brownfield and the Downtown Development Authority and those kinds of things on the road commission millage, whether they were just going to move forward and receive their portion, or whether they were going to allocate that back to roads.
Yeah, we're actually we're in process right now. We're working on our educational program,
Okay.
and we're meeting with all the folks that will actually benefit from that millage.
Okay, all right, that's all I need to know. All right, thank you.
All right,
Thanks for
thank
coming.
you.
You bet. All right, that concludes that item. We need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve that report.
Support.
All right, moved by Commissioner Lemko, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock to receive and file the road commission report of September 11th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes. All right, thank you. We have no special orders, we have no items, we already talked about the items for consent calendar. We will move on to department action items. We will now visit the Commission on Aging. They have a recommended fund balance policy that we've been working on. I don't know, Georgia, do you want to speak on this, or do you want to have members of the county commission that sit on that Commission on Aging speak about it? You want to address it?
We can.
Okay. How would you like to handle it? You want to address it?
Doesn't matter, I'm sure you guys can do just as good of a job as I can, maybe better.
Okay.
Georgia Durga, Director, Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging, and we actually have a fund balance policy for both the Senior Center Network and in-home services, and because the Senior Center Network millage is levied and collected in the same year, we have expanded their fund balance, and I don't know if you want me to go through the whole policy, but in-home services, which is West Front Street, is asking for, we set a limit, in-home services exceeds the, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. Anyways, our policy is stating that for in-home services, we would have a 6-month expenditures. Our fund balance should not exceed 6 months of expenditures. And our bottom limit, our high limit would be 6 months of expenditures, and our bottom limit would be $1.2 million.
Push the other microphone over.
Is that what's?
Yeah, we're trying to deal with the humming.
Is that thing, maybe if I switch?
No, that's all right, just push it over.
Now, he needs to make some adjustments in the room. So,
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to work on
I'm
that.
having an
Better.
issue with that, too. And for the senior center, we're asking for 1 year's worth of expenditures, or I think it was $400,000 as our maximum, so that we would have a kind of a range that we would go between. Right now, both of our fund balances are above the lower limits, but they're not above the maximum limits that the policy sets. So we're kind of in the middle in both.
Okay, Commissioner Max Bauer.
The first thing I want to say again is thank you, Bill Rokas, for joining the Commission on Aging Board and the Finance Committee. He has made such a positive difference. Not that we all weren't sharp with finances before, but I'll tell you, Bill asks questions and brings it on home. Our goal for the Grand Traverse County Commission on Aging fund balance is to not impact the general fund, and at the same time be respectful of voters' preference. Everyone here is well aware that we serve seniors at the pleasure of the voters, and if that millage should fail, we would be able, with the fund balance policy that we have, that we are proposing, we would be able to continue operations until such time as we could bring it back to the voters, either in all likelihood in a different form, because clearly if voters say no once, there's a reason for it. And then if voters by any chance would say no a second time, the shutting down of the Commission on Aging would not impact the general fund at all. So that really is, that's behind this policy. We think it's a balance. I mean, we don't want too much money in there because obviously the money is there to serve seniors. And so this is what we came up with.
Well, I could just make a remark that we've had a number of meetings regarding this with the Finance Council of the Commission on Aging. Dean was kind enough to come over and help us start the process and give us his viewpoint in terms of 6 months or 18%, or try to come up with a different balance. And I think in the end, what we tried to do is absorb what Dean was trying to talk about in terms of some protection between millages and what would be an adequate amount to survive on until we were able to get something out back to the public. So I fully support the recommendation coming out of the Finance Committee, and this was voted on at the Commission on Aging level, and they agree that this would be a good way to proceed moving forward. So there's a clear understanding of the rationale behind the fund balance, and you just can't come back and say, why are you sitting on this amount of money, and should it go to services, or, you know, you got more money to give to other services that we're not paying for. So, but in the case of the senior center, we've got a little more wiggle room because we established it at $250 and it's currently $353. So we need to figure out as a network how we might want to make adjustments in that differential. But we're good on the home services fund balance amount of $1.2 million. So I believe Commissioner Max Bauer and myself are here tonight, along with Georgia, to let you know we support this fund balance policy and the rationale behind it. Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I've always talked about fund balances based on a percentage of what your annual budget is. Can you tell me what these percentages are?
Well, the 1.2 million was just a number I think that we came up with. There wasn't a percentage, and we went more with, instead of a percentage, we did a 6-month reserves, and we did it based on time, how much time we thought it would take us to shut down.
So if it's a 6-month reserve, does that mean you have a 50% fund balance?
6 months of, yeah.
And when you're
6 months
talking
of our
about the
budget.
senior center budget, you have 100% fund balance?
The reason why is because they levy and collect in the same year. So if the millage didn't pass, we would have to have something to shut down with because all of our revenue would be spent for that year. So there would be maybe 1 month of revenue left, maybe not, to close down, pay unemployment costs, to shut down the building, to pay all our bills. So, and if we had to go back to the voters, we can't hold a special election. So we would have to go on an election of, another election of whoever had an election that year. So we may have to wait till May, we have to may wait till August, so we would have many months to go through, probably, maybe 8 months, maybe 11 months. We would have to go until we had another election.
Sonny, if the
So-
millage didn't pass, we would either have to, without this fund balance, we would either have to shut down services or, without the fund balance, shut down services or take it out of the county general fund.
Well, I just find 100% or even a 50% fund balance just totally excessive. We've had this discussion with the Resource Recovery Council, the fact that they had 103% fund balance. Chew down that fund balance until you get to a reasonable number. The Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners has decided that 18% is an acceptable fund balance for us to provide all of the services to the citizens of Grand Traverse County. How can we make that decision for all of the services that we provide, and yet we approve the fund balance policy for the Commission on Aging at 50 to 100% fund balance? I will never support that.
Okay, I guess I can respond to that. I understand, and again, I walked in as probably as conservative as you can think of and said, we need to establish up to an 18% fund balance on both the home services fund balance and the senior center network. What we found with that recommendation is that because of the timing of the millages, and they are separate millages at this point, that if you go into a millage question and it goes down, your funding ends, and you don't have a reserve because the 18% would get chewed up like in 30 days or whatever, 45, whatever the number of days is. So our concern is that we would have to have enough time to analyze what the concern was of the public if they did not approve the millage, and to put it back on the ballot and have the continued senior services continue until we were able to put it back on the ballot for another question. So that diverted the whole question of the normal 18%. Now, with the county, we're always going to have taxing revenue coming in annually based on, on an ongoing. Our taxing revenue ability and authority does not end, and then we have to put it back on the ballot. It's an ongoing, constant revenue stream. So therefore, an 18% of expenditures would be really a reasonable and rational approach of how to approach a fund balance for the county. When you talk about a entity that is funded solely by a millage, and that millage, if that millage is not renewed, and 18% of that fund balance or those expenditures aren't going to get you much time to get it back on the ballot and maintain those services. So that, Sonny, was the rationale behind the extension of the fund balance from 6 months, from a 6-month period and so forth. So that was the total rationale. And, fortunately, they've done a good job in containing expenses and having this reserve available to the extent that, the timing-wise of these millages, that it gives some level of protection. That's what we were trying to get at this point. Commissioner Lemko.
I think if the voters decided they did not want to have a millage, that means they didn't want to have those services. And so therefore, the answer is shut it down. If you don't pass a millage, we've always had that in our budget, that if you don't have the money coming in, you shut down the services. You don't take it out of general fund to keep it going. The voters have spoken and said, we do not want these programs running.
But when you shut it down, there's 20 weeks of unemployment.
But on the same token,
There's services for seniors. You can't just say, pull the plug on those services. They
If-
have to be,
if the voters tell you they don't want it, you shut it down.
but there's still
You
expenses.
might have 6 months, but you don't need a year. And you don't need for the senior center, you don't need a year, you need 6 months. For years, you might need 3 months, you don't need 6 months. So I'm just saying, I think if you cut it in half, it'd be a whole lot more easy for me to pass.
What was the rationale on the 1 year? There was because of the timing of the
Because their
election?
levy and their collection is the same. They levy in November, they collect in December. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's the reason.
For that year.
You wouldn't have any, you would have no wiggle room.
Nothing.
Nothing.
But you'll still have the money that you collected a year ago to.
No, that's gone.
No.
No, that's gone.
They levy and collect
That's
in the
gone.
same year. Commission on Aging does it that way.
Yeah.
Or the in-home services does it
But
that
senior,
way.
the senior center, that ends.
Yeah.
Commissioner Maxbauer.
I'll make a motion to accept the Commission on Aging's recommended fund balance policy.
Okay, is there a second?
One second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Maxbauer, second by Commissioner Rennie, to approve the fund balance policy for home services and senior center network as presented. Discussion, Commissioner Lathrop.
How would it hurt us as a county if we let them do what they want to do? Why wouldn't we say yes? I'm confused about that.
I don't believe there would be an impact on the county.
It doesn't, it's their money, right?
Right.
No, it's the taxpayers' money.
Oh, okay,
It's the
but
taxpayers' money. And
how would it hurt the taxpayers? I'm not arguing with you, I want you to teach me. How would it hurt the taxpayers if we let them do that?
it's just an inconsistent policy. We have policies for all of our departments that, in all of our funds, of how much is an acceptable amount of money to have in reserve. And to allow a 50% or 100% fund balance is just totally excessive. We had all kinds of discussions about the landfill surcharge with resource recovery. And we all know it's not a popular discussion with me, but the point is we've told them, you've got, you know, they projected 103% fund balance, and I think when they was all over and done with, they had like 117% fund balance because they didn't spend the fund balance that they budgeted last year. And we told them, we will not approve the fund balance, or the surcharge at the rates you've got. You've got to lower the surcharge and use some of that fund balance down. And yet, we're going to turn around and we're going to tell the Commission on Aging they can have a 50 to 100% fund balance, when the County Board of Commissioners will operate on an 18% fund balance. There's no possible way. 18% of our fund balance is what?
2 months.
2 months' worth of operation. You know, but yet they want a year's worth of fund balance. I think it's just excessive.
Okay.
And I can't support the policy.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Rennie?
I think it's a little different, and the Commission on Aging is funded by their own millage. And I think there's some services that are important to these folks that you wouldn't want to just necessarily cut them off the next day if you had a vote. I think that we need a little more compassion, at least in that. Some of these people are getting medical care, food, whatever it may be. Pretty draconian, I believe. I don't know if 100% or 50% is the right number, but based on the time it takes to get millages and things on the ballot to come back, I can see why they might need a little more time, which means more reserve to get to that next point. That would be my point.
Okay. Any other discussion? The only comment I have is that I believe the County Board of Commissioners has a fund balance policy, but I don't think we've given the departments a fund balance policy.
No, because that was, we talked about that
I mean, we've
in the
never.
beginning.
We've never given the departments, I mean, they vary all over the board between what their fund balance is and what their operating expenses. I mean, we judgmentally look at those every year to see if that's sufficient or not, but we've never given them any guidance.
Very few departments have their own monies.
Yeah, well, some of them carry it over. But, Sonny, we do have a difference of philosophy and opinion on this particular issue with myself, given that that one particular millage, it ends in December. If it's not renewed in November, for example, it's done. So, I would just like to have some time to, for, the Commission on Aging to evaluate, going back out to the public if necessary. And, maybe over time, we might say we got more of a comfort level with these millages moving forward with a little more history, and that we don't need to have these amounts, and they can go to capital improvements or other things within there. But I think in the short term, since, this senior center thing is sort of brand new for us, I think I think having the reserve now is good, and maybe later on, we can take a look at it and say, no, we think the comfort level's there for the public, and we don't think there's a shot at getting this thing turned down, so we're going to lower these fund balances. I think we can evaluate that later.
Dean, as the finance director, do you have any comment in regard to this? Is this a normal procedure that a department would have this kind of a fund balance?
Well, I want to be careful with how I answer this. I did attend the one meeting, I offered my comments, and I didn't attend any meetings after that, so without knowing the discussion that was had by, the Commission on Aging, I think it would not be wise for me to supersede or impose my opinion on this matter at this point. I mean, that is they've raised valid concerns about if their millage were not approved or renewed, it would cause them to have to either rethink how they're going to operate, or they would need time to go back to the public with, a reduced request. But I really don't want to say that what they're proposing here is not done for valid reasons. I think they have some very good reasons for having a larger fund balance than we have in our general fund. So whether or not it's excessive, I don't want to weigh in on that.
Okay,
to be
Dave,
honest.
do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. You got to keep in mind that you're levying a tax, the Board of Commissioners is levying a tax for the Commission on Aging, in-home services, and for the senior center, and for the pavilions, for that matter. The pavilions kind of do their own thing and really aren't a normal part of your discussion. The Commission on Aging, however, you do have some hands-on work that you do with them. And the question here is, why a full year? Why do you need a full year? Well, we know, and no one will dispute, that the Commission on Aging needs funds beyond if the date of a millage failure. They will need funds to wind down operations and get rid of everything and pay all the unemployment and do all those things. And if they don't set aside enough millage funds to do that, the county general fund will get stuck with that burden. The same thing would happen in the case of the pavilions, oh, by the way. The general fund would get stuck with the bill. The question is, how safe do you want to be? It's a policy question on how safe do you need to be. And do you want to give them, beyond just closing down operations, do you want to give them additional time to get to another election? By law in the state of Michigan now, there are 4 dates for elections. We know that, we know the ones that occur on regular election cycles happen every 2 years, in August and November. But if you don't hit those, you can go to one of these other dates, but there's a cost associated with that. Do you want to include the cost of a special election? If, for example, it should fail in November, do you want to include, enough funds to get them through operations to get to the next election to try again for whatever reason? It seems like that's what they want to do. I'm not real clear on why the senior center needs a year worth. 6 months seems, it seems adequate to at least the Commission on Aging. I don't know what the discussion was, as Dean said. I don't know what the discussion was on the senior center, but maybe they have a different, perspective on this. But it's a policy question on how much comfort level do you want to put in there and levy on the current taxpayers. So because that money that is not being used for aging services is being used against, the wind down and the eventuality of closing this program down in the future. How much comfort do you want?
Yeah, and I think you hit the point, I guess what I was trying to make, and I guess it is the comfort level of the public maintaining and continuing wanting these services. But the difference between the 6 months on the home services is the timing of the millage, and then when that millage, and then how much more time you have left after the voters would, like, for example, vote no on a particular renewal. You've got that time period to help wind down, so that's why we put 6 months. In the senior center thing, if it ends in November, it ends in December. So can we adequately assess what we need to do, wind down operations, go back to the public, put something on a ballot, and have it ready to vote on in 6 months? And that's an awful tight time frame. So that's why they said let's drop it from 353 down to 250, and that gives us the cushion to make that analysis and to continue services while we're trying to go out there and rebuild whatever situation occurred on the vote. So, and that was the rationale behind it. Now, this wasn't taken lightly, both at the Finance Committee meeting and at the board meeting. And quite frankly, I came out at the beginning with strictly Sonny's opinion. Let's just do 18%. But when we got into the detail of how these millages were structured and the time frame to wind things down and the additional cost that would be assessed to the County Board of Commissioners and not the Commission on Aging, we said we were going to need a little more cushion.
Their needs are different.
And then we were going to need some time to rebuild, whatever could have, that occurred that made a vote go no, and then get it back on the ballot. Now, I would say that, let's revisit this after the next election. I mean, we're building up, the next election is what? We're talking, 15 or something?
15 or 6, I think it's 16.
And
We did
there's
it
some
in
talk about
2010, so it'll be 16.
there's some talk about combining the two together, okay? And then if that vote goes as an affirmative, then we know that the community has a history and support of both these services. And then I think at that point in time, you can say, okay, we really don't have the public risk of confusion or, renewal and those kinds of things. It's pretty unlikely. Then you could go back and say, we can ease up on these fund balances and provide additional money to the, for those programs. But-
Plus with the senior center, if they were on the same cycle as in-home services, we wouldn't need the full year. We could
No.
drop that back to.
Right, okay. Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, two things. Number one, I hope you never put them in one ballot, one millage, because I think the people need to vote on whether or not they want to provide services to seniors, and I believe the senior center is a completely separate issue. And at least as long as I sit here, I'll never allow you to combine the ballot language.
That's a good
from my
comment.
perspective. I think they're two completely separate issues. But I just have a really hard time voting millages for governmental entities to put money in the bank. And that's what this does. It's asking the taxpayers to put money in the bank so some bureaucrat can set on a fund balance. And I do not support that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Commissioner Lathrop?
I know this might be a dumb question, but if you take that money and you put it in the bank, you're not going to spend it, that means you don't get to spend it on the seniors. Can you afford to do that?
We can spend it if you want us to.
Well, I'm just I'm just asking you.
Well, we have wait lists, and we've had that discussion too. Our wait lists are not too large right now, except with the exception of home chore, but, I mean, we do have small wait lists, so that's an issue, and we've had discussion about that. But the discussion keeps coming back to if we close down, if a millage doesn't pass, we don't want the burden to be on the county. So that's why we built up what we did. We also have a big project that we want to work on for in-home services, which we want to switch over to technology. Our computer system can't handle what we do. Every time we want to make a change, we have to have a programmer come over and do it. And it's not cost-effective, it's not customer-friendly, it's not staff-friendly. So, and that would cost some money to do that, but it would give us better customer service, better service for our staff.
I'm just saying that if you take X number of dollars and you take it out of circulation, that means you're not using it for
Yes.
services.
Yep,
And
that's true.
I'm just wondering, that it seems like that'd be a lot of money to take out of circulation. You could be using it for services.
The thing is, if you take it out of the fund balance, for what we would need to do would be to hire employees or contract. But if we get to a point where we don't have that money, then we have to cut that service. So it's hard to use some of that money to hire an employee because you might not have it next year. Then you either have to lay that person off and cut services or figure out where to get the money somewhere else.
We deal with that in every budget.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Dave?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that from a different angle, this becomes a restriction on funds also, because they can't go below, like we can't go below 18% of, use of fund balance. We can't say, oh, well, we have a big project and we want to use it to get all the bells and whistles that we can get out of this, when you're restricted to a fund balance policy that says it can't go below this level. You can't just, it doesn't become a slush fund that way. It must be that level, and it can't go below that. So that's another way to look at this, is a restriction on what they can use that money for.
That's what I meant, really,
Yeah.
Well, a quick question, Dave. When you develop a policy, all right, is it frozen in place where that amount can't be moved, or is it a guideline for the organization to use, and you come back and you address it if you ever need to get into the differential?
No, it's a Board of Commissioners policy that can't be changed without the Board of Commissioners' action.
Okay. All right, okay. All right, further discussion on the motion on the floor. All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the fund balance policy as recommended by the Commission on Aging Board for Home Services and Senior Center Network.
Do I have a conflict of interest?
Because you're old? If you do, so do I.
Okay, roll call.
Take a number.
Everybody understand the motion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Max Bauer?
Yes.
Commissioner Rennie?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
No.
Lathrop?
yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes, motion passes with one nay. Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you.
Moving on to Community Collaborative, we have an update from Barb Lemkool. Welcome, thank you for coming.
Barb Lemkool, Coordinator of the Grand Traverse Community Collaborative. I appreciate the time you've given me. I haven't been here in a while, so I've got a lot of updating to do. And get your calendars out, because there's some things coming up that are pretty exciting we want you to put on your calendars. The first thing I want to just mention is, I'm sure all of you remember, but the collaborative is made up of human service agencies and departments from the county, and the specific departments that participate are the health department, the court, planning, sheriff's department, the probation department, all of that. The first thing I want to update you on is on HelpLink. On October 12th, HelpLink is going to be 3 years old. In those 3 years, we have helped and have navigated services for over 3,000 non-duplicated families. And I want to point out, we have done this with absolutely no money. Everything has been contributed within kind. The agencies, the churches, other organizations, Munson Hospital, we have set up the office, got furniture for the office, and have about 30 navigators that rotate through every Tuesday and Thursday, and we've done all this without money. It has been proven to be quite an unbelievable service to not only constituents in this particular area, but also to agencies. We're able to troubleshoot and take some of the heat off some of the caseloads that agencies have. So it is truly a collaborative project, and one that I personally truly love, so I wanted to bring that up and bring you up to date. The things that we help with, there are things, normal things that people struggle with, like rent and utilities, Medicare things, Social Security things, higher education, government bureaucracies are really hard to navigate, but simple things like steel-toed shoes for somebody who just got a brand new job and couldn't afford to get the shoes until he got his first paycheck. And I want to point out, in that situation, we were paid back. So it's really great to help somebody improve their lot in life. There are 2 exciting events coming up in November, November 5th and November 6th, and I really, really would like to impress upon you to have all of you and people at your agencies, at your departments, your employees and your directors, to attend on November 6th. There will be a summit that is going to be put on all morning, a couple hours in the morning, by Dr. Donna Beagle. She will be here from Portland, Oregon again. She has just been elected as the National Trial Lawyers Association Most Outstanding Speaker. It's worth 2 hours of your time to come and hear her. She is pretty amazing. On November 5th, she is going to do another opportunity conference for about 300 people in our area that are living in poverty. And you're certainly welcome to come and watch that as well, but November 6th is the main date I'd like you to have on your calendars.
What time is that, Barb?
It's going to be 9 to noon. It's only a morning. If you can let some of your staff get away, certainly come yourselves. It would definitely be worth it. Tomorrow is United Way's Day of Caring, and the collaborative is involved in a couple of Day of Caring projects. One of them, a weatherization project, I'll tell you about in just a minute. But the other one is kind of near and dear to Herb's and my heart. It's Little Lending Libraries, if you have seen them around town. We are going to be placing 16 of them tomorrow. They're going to go at the elementary schools in several private homes. We also have some money donated by Herb's family for library work that we are going to be able to have Camp Pugsley, who is building them for us, build us more. So if anybody would like one or know of someone who would like one in their front yard, let us know. But they're just really a wonderful thing to have. We know that children read more if they have the availability to pick out what they want to read and then keep the book to share with their family. So we're pretty excited about that project. And lastly, we have been working for 6 months through the collaborative on a big project having to do with the Council of Governments and the HUD grant that matches the Grand Vision. We have been looking at housing, energy, food, transportation, and health as it relates to people living in the crisis of poverty. Our committees have linked with county departments. We are not reinventing the wheel. We are certainly working with all the other organizations in Grand Traverse County that are working on these issues. But housing is probably the one that's going to interface with the county more. One of their main goals is going to be looking at planning departments and housing standards. Housing standards for people who are living in poverty are pretty much deplorable, and they don't report them or can't report them because there's no place else to go to live. And there is no place else to go to live. There is a huge issue of housing in Grand Traverse County. And affordable housing or low-income housing is totally and completely non-existent. So a landlord who refuses to fix the floor in a house trailer or doesn't supply water or it doesn't have heat, it's very difficult for some families to complain because they can't get out of that situation because there's no place else to go. So they're going to be coming to the townships and the county to look at housing standards. And is there a way that if at least they're not enforced, can we certify maybe landlord type dwellings that are in great shape? I don't know exactly what's going to come out of that committee, but they're looking at that strongly. And the other thing is they're working with district court, and district court is now implemented an eviction diversion court to try to save somebody's house if they're being evicted because of back rent. And it's through a collaborative effort with the Northwest Community Action Agency, Goodwill Industries, Salvation Army, and DHS, and they all attend court on eviction day. And they kind of in a wraparound kind of way try to work out an agreement between landlords and tenants because it is much, much cheaper to keep people in their homes than it is to have them homeless for the county at large. So the judges are very, very excited about that project. Energy, the very first project is going to happen tomorrow for Day of Caring. And through a partnership with Cherryland Rural Electric, Freedom Builders, the SEEDS program, and several others, they are going to take the small trailer park on East Silver Lake Road and they're going to weatherize all of the trailers in that park. They're also going to look at other things that are more seriously wrong, like if a furnace has to be replaced, or if there needs to be more high-energy appliances or something like that. They're all going to kind of work together and try to bring these places up to a bit more of a standard. And then because Cherryland is supplying all the weatherization materials and frankly the volunteer labor as well, they also are the supplier of electricity there, so they will be able to track, and we should be able to get some good information about how much just very, very simple basic weatherization helps. The Transportation Committee is looking at the 5 counties. They're working with the 5 county public transportation groups, and right now they're looking at some sort of assistance in simple car repairs so people can get to and from their jobs. People who are working at minimum wage or slightly above minimum wage are one car breakdown from losing their jobs, and that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help an employer, and it certainly doesn't help the social service agencies. So they're looking at some sort of system where we can get some of these cars repaired rather inexpensively. And health, of course, Munson has done a 5-county health assessment. They have determined that obesity, diabetes, maternal smoking, and access to health care are the 4 primary things that this county needs. And through that partnership with multiple agencies and organizations, they're going to first address the obesity, diabetes issue, and secondly, the maternal smoking issue. That is, the maternal smoking one is actually probably an easier one to identify than the others. So they're going to be working at that. And of course, we're still always monthly working with suicide prevention, continuum of care, family support team, system of care, poverty reduction, the Bay Area Senior Services, and we've been very busy. So that's my report. Are there any questions?
Anyone?
Herb told me I had 2 minutes. Did I? 2 minutes.
Anyone?
We tell him he has 2 minutes all the time.
Yeah.
I know. Doesn't work. Well, I tried to mind myself.
All right, thank you, Barb.
Okay,
Questions?
thank you.
Okay, we have.
I heard,
Commissioner
is it true that you're going to retire?
It is.
When is that going to happen?
It's going to happen in January.
Rather. Wow.
What if we tell you no?
I'm not going away. I'll still be around to help out now and then if somebody needs it. But I think I've been doing this job for about 10 years, and I think somebody new will be as creative as I was in the beginning and probably more creative than I am now.
Well,
So,
thank you so much. You've done so much for us.
well, thank you.
Commissioner Max Bauer.
I have to say, Barb, you know, you really have become, over the years, an expert in poverty reduction and really making an impact
Thank you.
in people's lives. And I would encourage you not to give that up. I hope that as you and Herb travel, that you will look around the communities where you're in, and if there's an opportunity to step forward and educate people about how to reduce poverty, I hope you'll do it, even if you're just touring.
Well, I'm pretty sure that we'll still be pretty involved in the community. I don't think either of us are about to back off, and if I wanted to, he wouldn't let me anyway, so. So,
We want you to know we don't believe the things he tells us about you.
well, that's encouraging. Thank you all so much.
Hey, thank you, Barb. Appreciate it. Moving on to the finance report. There's an item regarding,
Larry, I
yes.
just wanted to make one comment.
Yes.
Is that this is always a budget item that comes up as to whether or not we continue to support the collaborative. And it's one of those issues that I cannot discuss on because it does affect, you know, my personal, our income. But, you know, I just want you to know.
Not next year, it won't.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this year, next year, this year's budget,
This
it always
year's
comes up. But this is that $5,500 pays for this stuff to be done. And I just wanted to make that point.
All right, okay. Moving on to item C under 9, under department action items, we have the finance director, Dean Bott, has an item on Lafrenia Road underground electric easement question, I believe. Dean?
Let me start this off. In your packet, we provided a letter from Cherryland Rural Electric on a project that they're doing jointly with Traverse City Light and Power. The letter provides a very good explanation. It's from their engineering and operations manager. We have Tony Anderson, who's the general manager from Cherryland Electric Cooperative, here tonight to answer any questions you may have, or Tony may want to provide additional comment. But they have been working with Traverse City Light and Power to establish a distribution electrical substation, and they're trying to locate at the same facility that Wolverine Electric, but Tony can do a better job of explaining this than I can. And if you do have that letter on your iPad,
Yep.
I think the second paragraph does a very good job of explaining what Cherryland is trying to do here. And with that, I'm going to ask Tony to come up, and if you do have any questions, or if Tony wants to provide additional comment.
Tony, if you could get yourself introduced for us.
Sure. Tony Anderson, General Manager, Cherryland Electric Cooperative. And Dean's got it right. Wolverine Power Cooperative is our wholesale power supplier. We're one of the owners of Wolverine. Wolverine owns the substation location on Lafreniere and has for decades now. We have some extra room there that we've offered Traverse City Light and Power so they can put in what we call a bay, a transformer that fits their voltage, and we can share that location. And that avoids building a second substation just a mile down the road. And we feel like that's good for the community, it's good for our members, it gives us another break in our system, and it's good for their members as well. So it's pretty simple that way.
Does the resolution, Bob, meet the requirement in the packet for the easement?
I believe that it does.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we have reviewed it.
All right, okay.
And just
any further information?
One additional comment. This has taken a little bit of time to get to you. We had a few meetings that were canceled, but we worked with Cherryland to make sure that the easements were on. If you look at page 51, the sketch that's provided,
right,
they're placed at the front of our property, the smaller where our public services building is, and that's currently in your road right away, so it doesn't restrict us to use. And then the longer section that runs, or our 20-acre parcel, it's also on the property line. So this does not restrict our future development of those two sites, and we thought that was very important. And Cherryland did consider that when this was reviewed by our planning and development office.
Okay. All right, pleasure of the board.
Move to approve the resolution.
Support.
All right, moved by Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock to approve.
Tony, there's not a problem with Wolverine's infrastructure. They have plenty of infrastructure there to handle the extra capacity that the city's going to need.
Well, the city's going to put in their own transformer. We're going to maintain the same transformer we have. They're going to put one in next to it in the second bay. So we'll both have adequate capacity for a long time to come.
But Wolverine has enough capacity on the equipment that they have there to
Today,
get us.
yeah. We just upgraded that substation just a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess my biggest concern is what's going to happen to Lafreniere Road and the construction, and whether or not they're going to put in sidewalks or bike trails or something, and whether or not this is something that's put in your plan as part of doing the sidewalk as part of that.
Yeah, Traverse City Light and Power is responsible for that part of the plan. Our partnership, we just agreed to get the easements. I understand, but I cannot speak for Traverse City Light and Power, but I understand that they've agreed to put in a sidewalk through that area. And there won't be any construction on Lafreniere. We're boring underground, and there'll be a box here, then we'll go underground without a trench. It's a boring machine, and we'll pop up in another spot and put another box. So the construction's very minimal.
So there won't be overhead lines?
No. We have enough lines in that area that these easements are underground only.
Okay. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a support on the floor to approve the easement as presented. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rennie?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to central dispatch, item D, final settlement resolution, immediate approval. So immediately comes Jamel Anderson. You have the floor.
Thank you. Jamel Anderson, Grand Traverse 911 Director, and I'm requesting approval of the resolution of the end result of our long-standing lawsuit with the MPSC. Although we are not getting retroactivity from this settlement, I don't think that it's in our best interest to continue fighting this battle. I think that getting our 80 cents that the Board of Commissioners initially requested is the right thing to do at this time and to move forward.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize the agreement making 80 cents the surcharge for our 911 surcharge.
And this would be the full ratification of the full Board of Commissioners. Okay, is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Commissioner Lathrop.
What have we been,
Discussion.
6 years, Jamal?
It seems like 60 years, but yeah.
6, 7 years, something like that. You know, since we originally sent it to the MPSC asking for the 80 cents, they gave us 66, and, you know, here we are 6 years later, and the Court of Appeals has determined that, you know, and if you remember when some of the discussion we had 3 or 4 months ago, in order to get retroactive, we'd have had to be at like $1.14.
Right.
I was normal before all this happened, just so you know.
Sweetheart, you've never
Yes,
been
I
normal
was.
as long as I've known you.
I was. I was more normal before all this. This was the edge.
But the fact is that, you know, we determined 5 or 6 years ago, we needed 80 cents to operate 911 in Grand Traverse County. And the MPSC chose not to authorize that.
In their infinite wisdom.
In their infinite wisdom.
What wisdom?
It's a state organization, what do we
Yeah, well.
expect?
Yeah, well.
But the fact is now they're allowing us to say, hey, guess what?
You taking
80
notes
cents is
over
right.
there?
So,
First thing I'll do when I get down to Lansing, Sonny.
I'll bet it still isn't right, though. We should charge more.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, going forward, the 80 cents will probably come a little closer to covering our costs.
Not
L-
even.
It's,
Little,
you know,
little.
It's closer. It's not,
It's all that's the best we can do with this. There's still work to do. We still have work to do, but it's the best we can do with this situation.
Okay, then.
Commissioner Lemkool?
Well, you know, this may be just enough to be able to operate, but it still doesn't take care of the equipment needs that we're going to be needing in the future.
It doesn't cover
Our upgrading
operations.
equipment is going to be very expensive.
Correct.
And that's going to be a challenge. You know, we did try and figure out how to put more on the ballot. If we wanted to put more, we'd have to go to the public in order for them to do it. I think was defeated, or did we decide not to?
That was it was. That
It was
was
defeated.
That was a long time.
a long
Yeah.
time ago, correct?
So, but, you know, still in all, this comes out of our general revenue. This is how we're paying for it.
And
that's how
911 is
we're gonna-
not getting less expensive. It
no.
is getting more expensive with the
Right.
technology.
Is it about $1 million a year, is it?
Well, closer to 2.
That we have to take out our general fund, is about $1 million?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rennie?
Yeah, so we're gonna get our 80 cents. We lost 14 cents for about 5 years, and this is where it ends.
Pretty much.
And I want to know what we're paying out of the general fund to make up the difference at the 80 cents. And then I also want to know what the surcharge should be, and I asked you this before,
Yeah.
what it should be, so the public would know what it costs to run this system. And I'd like that number.
I would be happy to provide that to you. I'm not going to do it tonight because I want it to be more accurate than me speculating.
I asked a number of months ago.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I also, though, at this point, we went for a surcharge increase before. And at that time, it was only landline. It wasn't even cell phone application. But because of this experience with the MPSC and other factors, I would seriously recommend looking at a millage rather than a surcharge for 911 because of
You're right on with that.
Yeah.
changes. So
Yeah.
it's a
Can you
different
get that number for
perspective. Yes, I will.
All right, further discussion on the motion. On the floor is to approve the final settlement resolution for the 9/11 surcharge. Full ratification of the Board of Commissioners. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Jamel.
I would be happy to never have to see the MPSC again, just so you all know.
All right.
I have a bulletin for you.
There you
You're
go.
probably going to see him again.
Moving on to Human Resources. Jen, welcome. We're going to talk about the performance evaluation for the county administrator. Jen, you have the floor, so to speak.
Jen Seaman, Human Resources Director. I am back with a proposal from Mary Grover to conduct the performance evaluation for Dave Benda. And in her proposal, she outlines what she would do for the performance review for Dave, meet with each commissioner individually wherever you would like to meet. It would be a verbal process versus filling out that review or that
Checkbox.
yes, those few sheets of paper that you've had to do each year. And she would then look for themes and common themes throughout meeting with each of you and then do a summary for discussion. And Mary has done this with the city, with Richard Lewis and with Ben Bifus. And so that is where we are at.
Okay. Commission's pleasure. Commissioner Max Bauer.
I would like to move forward with this. I have spoken with city commissioners who rave about this process. I have been an extreme critic of the way we have done it in the past, where we pick a number. So,
Okay.
that's my 2 cents.
We have need a motion on the floor, Commissioner Wheelock?
I thought you made the motion.
Oh, yeah, I'll make the motion that we move forward with this.
All right, thank
with
you.
this. Let me be clearer.
I will support.
All right, moved by Commissioner Max Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock to move forward with the agreement for Dave Benda's performance evaluation with Mary Grover at the specified amount in the write-up, which is $750 to a maximum of $1,000, which is really reasonable. Discussion. Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, you know, I guess I was probably one of the first ones that came up with the checkbox thing in 2007, something like that. I didn't like it then, and I haven't liked it since, so it's just the way it is. But, you know, I have served on a number of committees with Mary over the years. She's very thorough, and I think we'll truly see a wonderful product coming out of
I
this.
think we will too.
Very good. Any other comments? Commissioner Rennie.
I'd like to know what the administrator thinks about the approach.
I look forward to it. It sounds like it's a great process, and it gives me, allows you to speak freely and have a genuine conversation on various subject matter that she'll talk with you about, and we'll all get an honest assessment of where things are, and if there's anything that needs to be worked on. I think it's really a positive step.
All right, good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate your work on this.
Mary will be in touch with all of you.
Very
in
good.
the next month.
Very good.
I can't wait.
Moving on to Parks and Recreation. Jason, why don't you come on up and give us your summary of your grant application, and we'll have discussion. You have the floor.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jason Jones, Grand Traverse County's Parks and Recreation Director. I'm here today to ask for your support of a grant application to fund a recreation programmer staff based on, for several reasons. Back in 2011, we started a process, we began a different relationship with TCAPS. And we did a needs assessment in 2011 of households within the TCAPS school district, talking about the barriers that they had to recreation. We didn't go into specific detail about programs, things of that nature, but we said, you know, what barriers are there? From that needs assessment, the overriding discussion was that our community members wanted to see more recreational opportunities, more recreation programs within the community. Flash forward to 2012, and our Parks and Recreation Commission worked on a 2012 to 2013 Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan. And 4 goals in that strategic plan were related to programming. Develop a program plan for adults, develop a program plan for youth, develop a program plan for special events, as well as determine the feasibility of the county running a day camp program. So 4 goals were the 4 goals within that related to developing recreation programs. Later in 2012, our Parks and Recreation Department went through a 5-year master planning process, and the most significant portion of that master planning process is the public input. Outside of facility-related suggestions from the public, and you can check this document online, the number one thing that our community said again was they wanted to see recreational programs. They wanted additional recreation opportunities. So over the past 2 years, our department has been involved with different planning processes and different studies where we've consecutively heard from our citizens that they want more recreational opportunities, more recreation programs. Currently, in order to follow up on those 4 goals within the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan, in order to follow up with what our public or what our community members have identified, our department's currently working through a Rotary Charities grant that I came to you for, I want to say back in April, to further study. Instead of asking what instead of asking, what do you guys want to see and having that result be programs, we're actually specifically asking what programs do you want to see? And we're asking what programs do you want to see for youth, what programs do you want to see for adults, what special events, as well as some questions to gain interest or to gauge the interest of a day camp program. The application that I have, or the application I'm asking for your approval for, is a Rotary Charities program grant. It's year 1 of a 3-year program grant to help fund recreation programming staff within our department. What I've requested from Rotary Charities is $33,800, and included in the 2014 Parks and Recreation budget that will be presented to you, I think, later this month. I've already included the figure of $22,600 as a match for this program, for this grant. What I'm asking for tonight is simply the approval for this grant, or for the grant application. Within our 2014 budget, I've also budgeted $20,000 because that's a reasonable goal for a recreation program staff to generate new revenues in order for our department to do business differently. I think every time that I come here, we have a discussion or there's talk of how the Parks and Recreation Department's doing. And we do need to do business differently, offering recreation programming through our department based on the community need and the community suggestions for recreational programming. This is an opportunity based on those increased revenues we could generate for the county to have a very low-risk opportunity to fund a recreation programmer. Recreation programs are unique. Typically, the first year they don't gain roots in our community to grow. It takes 2 or 3 years. That's the reason I'm going for this. I'd like to apply for this Rotary Charities program grant because there's an opportunity for 3 years of programming. At the end of those 3 years of programming, this is a position within Grand Traverse County that I believe will be a positive or a revenue positive position for our department, meaning new revenues coming into our department. This is an opportunity for us to, like I said, give our community, give our citizens what they're looking for. It fulfills a need in our community, provides an opportunity for our department to develop programs that will continue to contribute to the quality of life and ensure a healthy, active community. And finally, I think this is key, is this an opportunity for our department to develop a new revenue stream that will assist in our department becoming more self-sustaining and relying less on the general fund allocation. In the past, when we've run programs, we most recently, I suppose, did the underwater egg hunt. We don't do very many special event programs. This was one that we did 2 years in a row. And we had, I believe, 300 kids came through that program. It was a one-time event, and I think the tickets were $5. But 300 kids coming through, utilizing the pool in one night. does a few things for our community. It gives them something positive to do. It gives them something to do as a family. It brings new customers into our parks and facilities that may not otherwise have been there, but it also generates some additional revenue. We've seen success in this. We've run programs in the past. Before I came to work for Grand Traverse County, running special events, youth programming. That is exactly what I did, running programs like this for a township just north of Auburn Hills. You know, these programs are opportunities for parks departments to see additional revenues, but in our community, this would be something that's fairly innovative. There are no other municipalities that are running programs to the scale that I'm suggesting. The challenge with that is this is a pretty standard practice from my colleagues throughout the rest of the state. And recreation is an opportunity to offset some of the costs associated with parks. So what I'm asking for tonight from this commission is simply authorization for me to apply for a Rotary Charities grant to help fund recreational programming staff for the first year of this 3-year grant.
Okay. Commissioner Max Bauer.
I've said this before, and to Jason, what I'm about to say will not come as a surprise to him. And probably it won't come as a surprise to many of my fellow board members. The Board of Commissioners policy has been consistent, long practiced, and unequaled in its success. That policy has been we provide facilities. We do not provide programs. Our emphasis has been on collaboration with nonprofits. Examples of that success, nonprofits built the ball fields at the Civic Center. They created the Keystone soccer fields. They built Eastling Pool. They built Howe Arena. Howe Arena's debt was just retired in 2004, not that very many years ago. Nonprofits are able to tap into a huge volunteer base, and they are unencumbered by labor contracts. If you take a look at our model of collaboration in Grand Traverse County, the organizations run sailing programs, skating, gymnastics. One of the things I did ask asked one of the other commissioners who favored this on the Parks Board, Scott Robertson, I said, name a program that the community needs. Give me one. And he said, gymnastics for tots. The YMCA starts gymnastics at age 1. And I also heard from commissioners, well, not everyone can afford that. Well, yes, they can. Gymnastics for tots is $25. If you don't have enough money to pay for it, you can do it for free. The YMCA has a philosophy for all their programs that no one is denied due to lack of funds. Gymnastics, soccer, basketball, football, golf. Traverse City Junior Golf has scholarships. Boxing, Trigger Boxing provides boxing lessons for kids that can't pay. Baseball, softball, BMX, bicycle racing, just to name a few. I did take a look at some of the municipalities around the state of Michigan that run recreational programs, and their prices are higher than ours are. For instance, in Midland, tennis lessons for beginning kids it's $35. It's $28 here in Grand Traverse County. I can give example after example where nonprofits are more inclusive, run by passionate people, and because they can tap people who are experts in their fields, passionate about their sport, they do it better. And I'm extraordinarily reluctant to get government involved in what I don't think they should be involved in. To say that it's just a $20,000 commitment, no it isn't. It's at least a $60,000 commitment because a programmer, as Jason said, isn't going to be successful in the first year. I see this as growing government when it isn't necessary, when others do it better. I did hear another Parks Commissioner say, well, other communities do it. Well, isn't a reason for Grand Traverse County to move forward. You know, when I was little, and I used to say, "But Mom, everybody else is doing it." That was never a real good argument at home, and I don't think it's a good one here. Also, to say that we are putting the cart before the horse is an understatement. We are, and I did support this and do support the survey that we are putting out there. Let's find out what the needs are first, if indeed there are any. I don't want to apply for a Rotary Charities grant and say, well, you know what, maybe there aren't any needs and then we'll give it back. I don't think that's the way to proceed. I think a real need has to be established before you ask for a Rotary Charity grant. So with that in mind, I will move to deny the request for a Rotary Charity grant application.
Okay, is there a second on the motion? Second by Commissioner Thomas. Further discussion of the board members. Commissioner Lathrop and then Wheelock.
Well, part of my concern is that we're looking at anywhere between $1 million structural deficit to $4.2 million, depending on if you count our unfunded liabilities, and we haven't even done our own budget yet. So for us to commit to $60,000, I just think we shouldn't do it. We're in a position now, all of us, my office, this county, Bob's office, I mean, all of us are having to do more with less. And I know that Jason has talents in this, and perhaps you could apply those talents yourself and see what you can do, rather than hiring a new person. By the time 3 years is up, we'll have a person that's going to cost us somewhere around, what, 50 to 60,000 bucks, plus benefits, and we won't have a Rotary program to help us. What are we going to do, fire him? And will we make enough money to pay for him? We'll be starting out, our programs will have to make that $60,000. I just don't think it's right for us to do that this time.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I guess the real question here is a big philosophical one. Whether we believe that we have a Parks and Recreation Department, or do we have a Parks Department that doesn't do recreation? Because it's very simple. We have a Parks and Recreation Department that we do not allow to do recreational programming. So if all we want to be is a landlord, and we're going to have the parks and we're going to make them available, then we stay the way it is. But if we truly want to expand recreational opportunities in our community, I think we have to get involved. You know, and you know, I've been around long enough to have spent my share of time picking up rocks in the Keystone soccer fields before they were built, coaching baseball at the Civic Center, spending time out there raking in all the holes and hauling out the dirt and anything else you can imagine. But the fact is that, you know, recreational needs in our community are a lot bigger than we are truly addressing in our current system. You know, and I think your needs assessments are going to come out, and they're going to show that there is more recreational wants than we have facilities and programs available for. So I think there is some value in expanding recreational opportunities in our community. You know, whether this is the right time, the wrong time, I don't know. You know, we went through this discussion 3 years ago. We talked about taking over baseball. 3 years, 4 years, you know.
2010.
We sat here in this room, and the whole place was packed with parents wanting the county to take over baseball program because they weren't happy with the way the program was being run by American Legion at that time. Okay, so we agreed to do that. We scrambled. We bought $10,000 worth of equipment. We bought some used equipment from American Legion. We put together a program. We put together a schedule. One season later, 6 months, the County Board of Commissioners decided we shouldn't be in the baseball business. We gave that $10,000 worth of equipment that we'd purchased back to the American Legion. we forgave them $9,800 worth of debt they owed to us from previous seasons. And we agreed to charge them 50% of actual costs for the next 3 years so they could run their own program. You know, that didn't make any sense in my world, but that's the way the Board of Commissioners chose to do it. But the fact is, there are additional recreational needs for our community that are not here. And, you know, I give all the credit there is to T-Bays and to ICE and all those folks. I've known those folks and done work with them and participated in their programs for many, many years. But I'm going to tell you another thing, folks. The volunteer list, the parent volunteer list, is getting significantly smaller. Every year it gets smaller. And it's going to continue to get smaller. If you want to grow those programs, you're going to have to do it professionally and not rely on volunteers to do it.
Okay, Commissioner Lundkuhl.
Do you want Jason to comment first, or do you want me to call?
I have a simple point of clarification.
Sure.
The grant this grant application would not begin until the earliest January of 2014. The needs assessment that we're sending out right now to find out specifically what programs our community would like will be done before that. So we'll be able to utilize that data in the event we are funded for this position.
Okay.
I left that out.
All right, Commissioner Lundkuhl.
Yeah, my challenge on this is not that whether or not we need it or don't need it. I think it's all timing.
Yep.
If we accept this project as it is now, we are telling our administrator, set the budget.
Yeah.
And we're taking that away from him to be able to give us a quality budget presentation when we have to come with it. So I have a problem doing it at this time. And I really think that if we decide at our budget level that we want to give additional money into the Parks and Recreation and then go ahead and go for a grant, then I don't have a problem doing it. But if we had every one of our departments went to Rotary and said, I want a grant, and if you're going to have to cover 50% of it, and we approved it, all of a sudden, we've kicked our budget way out of whack. So I think this is a precedent setting to be able to do this before the budget hits. So my feelings are is that this is too soon. So let's go through the budget process. If we decide that we want to do it, then we can go back and say to Rotary we can do it. The other concern I have is not all of Rotary grants are 100% funded what your needs are. You know, we got that through 2-on-1. Thought we needed 50,000, they gave us 40. But this next year is supposed to be 35,000. We think we'll be lucky if we got 25. So these grants, they only have so much money to give away. Mm-hmm. They can't fund everybody totally 100% of what the request is. So that's another challenge that I have with this. And so, you know, I have to support Chris's motion because of a timing issue.
All right, Commissioner Rennie.
Yeah, one question to start off with. Your analysis where you try to make up the 22.6 essentially with increased revenues. I think when you look at these, if you're looking for a long-term full-time employee, you should go for the total wage and not try to take the grant off of what you think the obligations are going to be. If we're going to get rid of a person in 2 or 3 years, why do it anyway? So I think you should look at this. Can this new director come in and take care of $50,000, $60,000 worth of increased revenue? Another question I have, and I think the board should consider this seriously, it's along with what Herm says. We haven't reviewed all our county services and evaluated what is mandated, what should be continued, et cetera, part of our strategic plan. We haven't yet developed a workforce plan, including our compensation and benefits review. We haven't successfully negotiated our labor contracts yet. I don't think this county is in any position to think that they can go out and start hiring full-time employees. I think it's the wrong time. We should wait till some of this other stuff is done, and then maybe bring it back. That would be my feeling on it.
All right, Commissioner Thomas.
Well, there's a whole large percentage of our budget we really don't have much control of. We have to have a jail. We have to take care of fund the child care fund, but part of the budget, and so many things. We have to take care of this building. And I mean, I'd have to have a list a very long list of the things we don't have any control over. Parks and Rec is something that we don't have to do. It's one of those wouldn't it be nice items. And we don't have to provide any recreation to anybody. And I've always felt that more people around here have their own recreation anyway because they live on the lake than what we ever provide them. So I don't mind us going up after the grant, but what if we don't get it?
Okay, Commissioner Max Bauer.
Well, I wanted to address something Commissioner Wheelock said. Yes, there were a group of people that came in and asked the county board to take over American Legion Baseball. But I'll tell you what, the vast majority of people that were involved in American Legion Baseball did not want the county to do that, and they stated exactly that with their feet. They quit the program. When the county took over, the year before the county took that program, there were close to 900 children in that program, and it dropped to just around 500 as soon as the county took it over. You know, and now the American Legion is talking about starting an additional league. They are picking up steam again and getting more community involvement again. I just think it's a policy that has worked extremely well for the residents of this county, and I could not find a sport, a recreational sport, that didn't have a club, a group of passionate people behind it, and did not offer that sport for free to kids who couldn't afford it. I just think it's a wonderful system that we have here in Grand Traverse County, and indeed, it is starting to be practiced elsewhere. The last place I saw it practiced was Mission Viejo, which I was just there for a swim meet, so.
Okay, I guess my
Anyway.
comments on this thing is pretty much a consensus of what I'm hearing, I think, is that my first thought was that this was a little premature before we get into the budget, and we haven't done the needs assessment yet that Parks and Rec would like to do. And we're sitting on this $1 million structural deficit that we've got to address, and I really don't want to entertain taking on any additional FTE until we have the budget resolved and know exactly where we're moving forward with, even though it's partially funded by a grant. And I would like us to continue on with the philosophy of, you know, we have provided the facilities and the land and the opportunity for groups to come together and put these programs together. It's really worked well. I guess the day that that these volunteer groups start falling downward and the people aren't volunteering is, I think, the day that Sonny probably would be right, is that, you know, then that would be the time that we need to probably address it, but it's probably not now. So, in any event, I'm not going to vote for it, but any other discussion for?
My motion was to deny the
Yes,
application.
I'm not going to vote for his request.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to deny the request for the Rotary Charities. Any further questions? Dave Benda.
The Parks and Rec Commission and their role in this whole thing. I think Jason outlined at the beginning of his presentation that there's a strategic plan and there's a master plan out there. They're directing him to pursue recreational program alternatives in the county. And to me, the message he's getting from the Board of Commissioners tonight is different than the one he's been getting from his Parks and Rec Board for quite some time now. And for him to pursue this and bring it forward as an application to do something about it, is, you know, I think you need to either meet with the Parks Board or send some definitive message down to them about your feeling about the direction they're headed in. Because I think he's serving two masters now, and they're saying two different things.
Fair enough. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. It's not, yes?
You know, and I think it's important that we know what David's talking about. This board has repeatedly taken the recommendations that the Parks and Recreation Commission have made and the directions they've given the Parks and Recreation Director and overturned those.
If we're going to continue to have that kind of a philosophy, we might as well abolish the Parks and Recreation Board and have Jason work directly for the Board of Commissioners. Because this whole thing, you know, and I can probably count at least a dozen times in the last 5 years that Parks and Recreation has made recommendations to the Board of Commissioners for a multitude of different things, and the Board of Commissioners has overturned it. They've made decisions, they've started different things, and then the Parks and Recreation, the Board of Commissioners comes in after the fact and reverses those decisions. You know, if this Board of Commissioners is going to continue to repeatedly overturn decisions and recommendations of the Parks and Recreation Board, we should just abolish the Parks and Recreation Board. Those people, I'm sure, have other things to do in their lives, too. They're volunteering their time, they're doing the research, they're doing their homework, they're coming forward and making recommendations, and we are continuously overturning their recommendations.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to deny the request as presented in our packet for the Rotary Charities Grant position. Roll call vote, please. And so the motion is to deny, so if you say yes, it is to deny the request.
Correct.
Commissioner Rennie, do you have a
Just
question?
one more before you take your vote. With respect to what Sonny and Dave said, I think they're correct. Again, getting back, this is a bad time to be looking at hiring a full-time employee. Just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Bring it later.
And that's my viewpoint. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Spivak?
No.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Inman?
Yes, motion passed. Motion passes. That means that we're going to
Thank
not
you,
move forward with
Commissioners.
this at this time. Thank you, Jason.
This means no.
Yes means no.
Moving.
Thanks for that, Chris.
Certainly.
Yes, I hate when the yes means no. But does that happen when you get married, or no?
No, that becomes a maybe then.
Oh, okay. Moving on to administration.
Those of us who are married are all chuckling.
Moving on to administration. Chris asked, that when I met with her on the agenda, she was kind enough to put together what's coming up from now to the end of the year in terms of appointments that are expiring, to give us a heads up on who's up and what boards and commissions. She currently has advertisement out and calling and making sure that, you know, the incumbents, if they want to reapply, that they come back in and make that notice to us. So basically, from what I understand from Chris, this is information now for the Board of Commissioners, and what she would like to do is come in and address the Board of Commissioners at the October RMA meeting and give us the results of all the applications for all the various boards and commissions that are coming up, and who's applied and who hasn't applied, and then we can form the ad hoc committees at that time to do interviews from now to the end of the year on those vacancies. So unless anybody else has any questions on that, that was the intent of that agenda item. All right, moving on to the administrator's report.
Okay, I've put a report on your desks, and a couple things I want to make sure I touch on. In the Boardman River Dams process, there's a lot of things going on right now. It's quite the full-time task for myself and Deputy Civil Counsel to keep abreast of all this, and Dean. But we've gotten worked with the Road Commission to get that agreement done. We've worked with the Conservation Resource Alliance to set them up as our fiduciaries through the implementation team so they can pay the bills when they receive funding for this from various sources. We're also working with the Road Commission. Chris Forsyth met today with the Road Commission to go over our notes and their notes on the URS agreement. And they've come to a conclusion, and they're going to send that on to URS so that they can hash out what that might look like, so that they can become do the design and engineering for the project, for the Boardman and Sabin Dams and for the Cass Road project. And we're working, of course, on some litigation that's out there. The city has some litigation, and they've asked for some joint council representation. and we're working with them, and we're also working on the Boardman Dam lawsuit, and that is taking some time. So anyway, Boardman Dams is moving right along, and as soon as we get the URS contract agreement together, we're debating some other issues, but they're already starting to work. So I think they're waiting for that piece of paper that allows them to move it forward, though.
Somebody was saying there's a lot of equipment at the Cass Road area now?
They're working on that power line.
That's the utility.
Oh, the power line.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I know URS is moving forward on a lot of
Yeah, okay.
other fronts that they can work on in-house and in-office right now. So anyway, I also wanted to make you aware that, I think we're going to go all the way down to the end. Did you, I'm sure you all saw that the Brownfield, that AKT Peerless presented their preliminary evaluation results on the Garland Street Warehouse District and found that there were some hot spots. Apparently, bad is when hot spots are everywhere, and good is when they were concentrated in one area around the Hotel Indigo, and that turned out that it had not reached the bay, and that basically the actions we're taking right now are to clean that all up. And there's, it's not like it's a cancer that's metastasized. It's one spot, and we're cleaning it up, and it's going to be vastly improved groundwater in the area. So that's good news for everyone. And I just wanted you to know that we had hired a new resource recovery manager. We'd offer the position to Susan Shipman. She right now is, she's actually from the University of, she graduated from the University of Victoria in British Columbia with a degree in biology and environmental studies, and she was most recently a Parks Commissioner for Peninsula Township, the Parks Commissioner. She's kind of running the Parks Department up there and in Peninsula Township, and she's also the Conservation Director for the Trust for the Virgin Islands Lands, which is a conservancy, I think. And we had a group interviewing her, a representative of the industry, the chair of the Resource Recovery Council, Jen Seaman, and I did the interviews, and we all came to the conclusion she would be a fine addition to our staff. She will start on October 7th. And I wanted to announce also, in case Commissioner Rennie wasn't going to announce it, that the household hazardous waste collection will be held on September 28th from 9 to 2 at the Grand Traverse County Road Commission Building at 1471 East M113 in Kingsley. An appointment is required and can be made beginning September 16th. So you can't actually make your appointment until September 16th.
Thank you for doing it. I was going to do that.
Okay, any questions of the administrator's update? Dave, I just appreciate the detail on the write-up, as well as you outlining the strategic plan on top of it, so you can have an opportunity to address some of those.
Yeah, we'll refine that as we go.
It was a nice format, I thought. Okay.
Question?
Yes.
Dave, is there a possibility that we could get this on Tuesday during the daytime? Some of us have township board meetings that we go to this particular week, and
Yours was yesterday?
mine was yesterday.
Oh.
So both Blair and Garfield were yesterday. I don't know about,
Some of those are Monday, or
some are Monday, so if we could get it on Monday maybe of that week, of this week would be helpful.
Okay.
Then we could go in, when we give our report, we can use this report.
I can do that, it's not a problem. I like to wait till the last minute to get everything that, like,
Well, I
all the new
understand.
information. I was
Yeah.
waiting for some pieces today, and
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I had the hot stuff, but.
I understand, but it would just be a little bit helpful if we could.
Okay.
You don't need notes to talk too much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas.
He does really well. I don't have to get up very often to correct him.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the administrator's update. We move on to unfinished business. We have none. Under new business, Commissioner Lemkow asked just for a couple, or excuse me, Commissioner Lemkow did ask for a couple items to be added. You have the floor.
Yeah, we have the September 25th, it's a special meeting request with the Department of Human Services on the pavilions. You've all been given out notices that ask you to respond. I do need to have 3 commissioners sign the request that we're going to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to go there.
And then also to make sure that Chris lets you, you have to let Chris know that you're going to be there. So, just email her and let her know that you're going to be there so we can do that.
Is that a joint meeting? Or are we just
It's
gonna-
really
or
an
are we just-
informational meeting.
Or are we just going to attend one of their meetings?
No, this is a special informational meeting about what the Pavilions is doing and how they're doing it.
But that's 1 o'clock on the 25th, Wednesday.
Right.
Pavilions.
Right.
All right, okay.
So if we could put it on our calendars for the 25th at
And let
1
Chris-
o'clock,
And let Chris Kramer know.
it'll be at the Pavilions. And this is just an informational meeting. It's not really a joint meeting. It's just an informational meeting. We will not be making any decision. There's an agenda of things that they're going to talk about, what they're doing, how they're doing, so that you can be brought up to speed as to what's happening. And then also a little bit of information about the PACE facility that they're proposing in the future. And I'm going down Tuesday to look at a PACE facility with them in Grand Rapids and Muskegon. This is a program to keep people in their homes and providing services at a facility during the daytime. So this just kind of get everybody up to speed as to what's happening, so if we could do that, appreciate it. The other item is, it's being requested that we do a closed session meeting. If you looked at your calendars, sometime on the 23rd is what they're looking at in October, in September.
That's Monday? Or is that our regular board meeting?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
Uh-oh. During the night and evening?
We can do it during the daytime.
What is the subject matter on the closed session?
This will be for negotiation discussions as far as unions negotiation.
Well, if you want to have it during the day, I got a commitment at 5:30 to 9 o'clock that evening.
Well, I'm suggesting we could do it in the morning or at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Can't we do it after or with Ways and Means?
We can't do it because the 25th, we're going to be doing a 1 o'clock meeting here for the DHS. And then, if you want to, you can add a lot of those meetings.
You want to sit by
The
me
problem
for
is
8 hours?
Yeah, the problem is it may take longer than an hour. So if you want to start it at 5 o'clock, then you're into dinner times.
Let's
So-
do it Monday morning.
Monday morning at what?
9 o'clock?
9.
Fine.
Okay.
Commissioner Lathrop?
Why can't we do it sooner?
We could do it Saturday.
I mean, I hate to wait until then. I like to get a jump start on this personally. Why can't we do it sooner?
This will be fine. I mean, this fits within the Human Resources timeline.
Will it give us time to think, though?
Yeah.
And I mean, are we willing to have enough, what if we need more meetings? Sonny brought this up. We'll do it?
If we need another meeting, we'll do another meeting, but hopefully the information will be given to us, we'll have time to digest it, we'll be able to have that discussion as part of a closed session to figure out what is our negotiation strategy for the union,
So
for the
Monday
union
at-
contracts.
Monday morning, the 23rd at 9 a.m., is that fine for everybody?
Yeah, this is information to get us started on negotiations.
It's just the start.
It gives you an idea.
Monday,
It allows us to get
September
started.
23rd.
It's the,
9 a.m.
doesn't need to be the last meeting or the only meeting, it's just,
So is 9 o'clock Monday morning
Yep.
work?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I bring my patience?
Sure.
I don't have much patience
Yeah.
left, so we'll just move on from there.
All right.
Want to sign?
Any other
Use your
unfinished
pen.
Want to
business?
sign?
Any other new business?
Not new business, no. I have
We've
commissioner
passed unfinished
comments.
business.
I'll
All
wait.
right, we'll
I have
move on
commissioner
to
comment.
second public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak at this time? Seeing no indication from the public, we will close the second public comment. We will move on to commissioner committee reports. Commissioner Maxbauer.
Well, I just wanted to speak briefly about the fact that I have canceled public health and safety meetings so often. Generally, there has only been 1 or 2 items on the agenda, which is why I've been canceling them. However, I'm going to be, as we move forward into the budget season, I'm going to be less inclined to do that. Don't grimace at me, Dickie.
Less inclined.
But I did want to explain to the public that it just didn't seem, we had at the last one, we just had the Commission on Aging fund balance policy, and we had a health department contract, and those were the only two agenda items, and,
Okay.
but I will be less inclined to do that in the future.
All right, okay. Any other committee reports?
Just to follow up on yours, Wendy and I have had a couple of conversations about the health department reports and what we're doing, that more often than not, all we're getting is, we want approval for this. We've never really gotten any informational thing about what is it that we're supposed to do? What is it the health department's doing? Where is it going? You know, we've been working on a cross-jurisdictional services program, and Wendy said, don't ask me to talk about it today, and I said, that's not a problem. But in the future, you know, this is one of those things that we might want to look at, Chris, on your agenda, is kind of, what is it more that, we are the health department board, and that's not normal. We're a one-county health department board, and so we have more responsibility than just approving a budget or a grant or whatever. So I'm thinking that if you would like, maybe you could work with Wendy to maybe help us to become more knowledgeable. What is the health department doing, how they're doing, where they're going, and so we become more knowledgeable about what's happening there. So I just, you know, to add to your agenda items, you might want to look at that.
Will do.
Okay, any other committee reports? Commissioner Rennie?
Just a comment on what Commissioner Maxwell said. I agree, we should not be canceling these meetings. I think there's an awful lot to talk about now. We have vice chairs and things like that that need experience, and I think we should hold these meetings. I've had a couple comments from the public about them not being held, I might add. Now, I know that got into a couple, 3 in a row, which is very abnormal, but it still did come on.
And I appreciate the fact that you shared those comments with me, and I've taken them to heart.
I appreciate that, too.
Okay.
One other thing, I
Yes.
did attend a Traverse Bay Economic Development Corporation meeting, session down at Kingsley. They're doing an economic development action plan down there. They presented Phase 2 last week. I wanted to thank Dave Benda for coming down and listening to that meeting. A lot of people were very impressed with your presence. We had Wayne Schmidt there. We had a lot of folks there. It was quite a good meeting, actually, and a much larger turnout than any of the folks in Kingsley I thought would happen. So there is some interest in getting some economic development in South County, and I'm behind it 100%.
And I also attended that meeting. It was excellent. I think
I'm
Doug...
sorry I didn't know
Well,
that.
don't worry about it. Doug Luciani and his staff did an excellent job presenting
It was a great program.
what they saw as the prospects for South County and Kingsley to do some different things.
Thank
It was
you.
an interesting
Thank you,
meeting.
Larry, for that.
Commissioner Wheelock?
I guess the one thing I want to mention, last night at Long Lake Township's meeting, there was significant discussion about, I believe it's the Watershed Center has done some surveys in Long Lake Township and identified that we have some significant Phragmites issues in some of our small lakes. Not something that is necessarily affecting Long Lake, but it affects Caulfield Lake, South Twin, Humana Lake, and one other one, and I'm not sure if I can remember which one it was now. But maybe, you know, as we talk to our other townships, we need to mention that, because these small lakes are important to our economy, they're important to our community and to our environment. And Phragmites is a very invasive species. We had some issues, if my memory is right, we had some issues at Maple Bay a few years ago. And, you know, we spent some time trying to dig it out and every other thing. And, you know, according to the information that I've been seeing of late, you know, the herbicide treatment is the only thing that's truly being effective. And, you know, there's a lot of discussion with some individuals, some lake owners, whether or not they feel the herbicide is safe. But the fact is that it's probably the only program that is working. So, you know, we might mention it to your other townships, because all of us are blessed to live in a community where we have a lot of small lakes around, and the small lakes seem to be picking this up, which, you know, is important to note.
Long Lake Township has a program, and so does Silver Lake program. Each of those have associations that are really pushing on it, and they, I think through the drain commissioner, they can do a
Fall grant.
Pardon?
A fall grant?
No, it's
No, they had to make
an
an application
assessment.
to the,
Oh,
So
yeah.
they can do an assessment for the property owners of that lake to be able to provide those kind of services. But it has to go through the drain commissioner in order for that to be assessment.
what they found in Long Lake Township, they found is if the township makes the application to the DEQ for the permit, then it can be general for all of the lakes. If the Long Lake Association or
Right, it's
something
just
tries
for
to do
that.
it, or a community, or a subdivision does it, it can only affect their particular property. So the townships are going to be making the application, which can make the treatment available to all of the lakes that choose.
Yeah. Silver Lake Improvement Association also is looking at the muck. And one area, I think there's over 12 feet of muck on the end, and they're trying to figure out a process to be able to eliminate that, and they've had all kinds of presentation at their meetings about that. So it's just one of those issues that are happening, and there are some people that are very, very involved in trying to clean those parts of the lake up for that kind of stuff, both the Phragmites and the muck. And the associations are doing an excellent job in monitoring these things.
Okay, any other committee reports? Yes?
Yeah, the Conservation District met Monday night. They did approve their budget. It's a challenged budget. It's not balanced. So they're going to have to do some fundraising for that. Also, I think in September, or October, we've got a lease arrangement that has to be approved. And right now, their lease is that we don't charge them anything for the lease. And it's a 5-year lease, and it's coming up due, so that'll be coming on our agenda to talk about whether or not we want to renew the lease as current, and or how else we might be able to help them.
Okay.
So that's kind of what's happening with the Conservation District.
All right, anybody else? And we'll close Commissioner Committee reports, notices, and announcements. Commissioner Lemkool.
Last night, Garfield Township approved to put in a fence for a dog park on their Silver Lake Park. So that's going forward. They also have a maintenance person that they've hired that's going to be doing a lot of maintenance things for their parks, and so they're looking forward to having some. They just gotten so busy they just can't do it within their group. And then also last night, or Tuesday night, Blair Township turned on its splash pad. And so they were pretty excited about that. It's only $25,000 out of the general fund dollars that paid for that, and the rest of it was all grants. And it's going to be very well received, I think. And then today, this morning at 8:30, was the 9/11 service at the Metro Fire Department on Parsons and 3 Mile Road. Very well attended, very well done. And, they do this on a yearly basis. And, of course, this is where they are displaying the artifact from the World Trade Center on their site. And this is a great opportunity for our community to continue to remember what happened 12 years ago.
Okay. Any other notices and
and
announcements?
tomorrow is Make a Difference Day
Okay.
on the open space, and anybody that wants to do a volunteer project, this is a great opportunity to be able to get on board and be able to help out and be able to make a difference in our community.
Okay. Anyone else? That concludes notices and announcements. We don't have a closed session scheduled for this evening, so we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Moved by Commissioner Maxbauer, seconded by Commissioner Thomas. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So much for a short meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. So much for that.
Oh, well.
You probably have a calendar.
I have a question.
I know.
Last on food.